Today I'm going to be recommending some films that I've been watching recently. All of these titles are from the boutique label Radiance. I've been trying to watch as many Radiance titles as I can this month because Barnes & Noble is having a 50% off sale on all Radiance titles. The sale runs until March 9th, so you still have some more time to go out there and grab some titles for half off. But I know some of my audience is still very new to the label and they don't really know what to look for, so I thought I would do a little recommendation video with some of the titles I've been watching, and hopefully at least one of these will sound interesting to you. I've got films in this stack from America, Japan, France, Belgium, and Greece, so hopefully at least one of these will sound interesting to you. And then at the end of the video, I will be announcing the winner of the Radiance giveaway that I announced in my last video, so make sure you stay tuned to the end for that. The first release I'm going to talk about is the Shinobi box set. And this is actually Shinobi Volume 1 now because they have just released a Shinobi Volume 2 box set. I've seen it in stores. It looks great. I can't wait to get my hands on that one as well. But I went ahead and watched the first film in this set this month. This is a 3-film box set. The films are Band of Assassins, Revenge, and Resurrection. The first 3 films in the Shinobi no Mono series. I was excited to check this out. I actually found this on eBay for a really good price. I think I got it around 20 bucks a while ago, and I just haven't got around to watching it yet, so I thought this was the perfect month to finally pop it out. And I watched Band of Assassins, which is the first film in the series, and I enjoyed it way more than I was expecting to. I was expecting like a fun action movie, fun martial arts movie, fun ninja movie, but it was so much more than that. I had heard that this sets up like a lot of the cinematic ninja tropes that you've seen everywhere else. This was like the template that started it all. And it did do that. It definitely delivered on that stuff. There is the iconic ninja suit, the ninja mask. This is the first on-screen appearance of shuriken, throwing stars, blow darts, and ninjas running around breathing underwater with reeds and dislocating their shoulders to get out of bonds. Complete silence as the ninjas are moving or doing anything. There's no Foley. All that stuff is here, and that was great to see all that, where it all starts and originated. But it's so much more than just a fun action movie. It is an epic. This is a historical epic. It's shot in these ultra-wide camera lenses. I don't know if you can see right there. There's a couple examples. You can see that ultra-wide framing. Super cinematic, beautiful cinematography. It looks amazing. I was blown away by what this film looked like. This is a revisionist history film, so we're kind of looking at things from the ninja perspective. We're following this ninja clan as they're training. They're training every day over and over to try to take down this actual historical figure, Nobunaga, who is a really famous Japanese feudal lord from the 1500s who is going around conquering all of these Japanese villages and unifying everything. So we look at all these actual historical events and we see what's happening in the shadows, behind the scenes, the stuff that didn't make it into the history books, and we get to see that in here, and it's a lot of fun. Obviously, this is not based on actual stories. It's based on folklore, myth surrounding ninja. So we'll see Nobunaga become extremely ill and almost die, which maybe was based on a historical event. But in this version, it's because a ninja sneaked into his castle and poisoned him. And it's really fun to see I don't know, that perspective. I really like revisionist history stuff and mythologizing history and folklore. All that stuff really appeals to me. I've talked about that on the channel before. So this was right in my wheelhouse, even more so than I thought it was going to be. These stories are based on novels that were originally published like in newspapers, like serialized. They later got published in the novels, but they were fresh off the presses when this film came out. I think this film came out in 1962, which was right when those stories were extremely popular. They were written by a gentleman in the 60s, famous playwright and artist and political activist. So there's some of that in here too, which I, again, wasn't expecting. I really connected with the story. So we have the main ninja guy right here. He is the main character, and he is getting super involved in the ninja clan. He's raising up in the ranks. He wants to become the general of the whole clan, and his father is telling him that he needs to just focus on his own personal happiness and his own family and setting up his life. He doesn't want his son to throw away his life, giving himself completely to this cause instead of being an individual person. So a lot of that stuff was coming through in the 60s with the political activism that was going on at the time, and that comes through. And it's still relevant today, which I found fascinating. It also gets into the extreme code that the ninja have to keep, where if they get caught by the enemy, they not only have to kill themselves, but they have to completely mar up their face before they do so, so that the enemy can't recognize them and they can't ID them, because they have to be completely anonymous. So it's also commenting on the complete lack of individuality and conformity in general, which was also a big topic in the 60s as consumerism was like ramping up. I just watched a bunch of 60s films by Pasolini last year, and he was ranting and raving about the rise of hyper-consumerism. So all that was very familiar to me. So you've got multiple layers. You've got the original historical layer, and then you've got the 60s kind of reinventing these stories for a new era, and then you've got the actual filmmaker's interpretation of that. It's directed by Satsuo Yamamoto, who I am not familiar with, but I think he goes on to direct a few more of the films in this series. This series was a long-running series, so if Radiance wants to continue putting out box sets, they could do it for a while. But this is just the first 3 films, and I'm assuming the second box set is also 3 films. The booklet in here is fantastic. I recommend reading through that as well. The first essay is a great overview of everything. It talks about the production, it talks about the original writer, it talks about the story of the film, so that's a good overview. The second essay in here does a bigger deep dive into the author that they are adapting from and all of his life. So that's actually a very good deep dive into his stuff. And then, and I should say the name of the author, it is Tomoyoshi Maruyama is the playwright and author. And then the last essay in here is really interesting. This is written by the cinematographer. And this was originally published in a magazine, like when the film came out in 1962. And he talks a little bit, not too much. It is a pretty short essay, but he does talk about why they chose to use zoom lenses. They were trying to increase the level of anxiety that you feel in the story. And they also were required to use zoom lenses a little bit because the main actor is not a martial artist. So they had to cut around him not being able to do the stuff that they needed him to do all the time. There's the alternate artwork underneath. It does get a little convoluted in the middle part. I think we could have simplified the plot a little bit. The general of the ninja clan is blackmailing our main protagonist to try to get him to assassinate Nobunaga, and he goes through all of these crazy hoops and all of this behind the scenes manipulation just to get him to do that. And I feel like it got a little convoluted, a little bit silly. I feel like we could have simplified that a little bit. But even with that, the film's not very long. It's only 104 minutes, so a very breezy watch. I am excited to dive into the other 2 films in the set, which are in this release. And this also has some art cards in there on this side. That is a really fun set. I think this box set is now out of print, but you can just get the standard edition releases of each film. I think they're sold separately, but you should be able to find those on Barnes & Noble's website or in your store if you're lucky. The next film I have is from 1971, so jumping ahead a decade and jumping over to France. This is a French language film, although it is a Spanish director. It's directed by Fernando Arrabal, but he made this film in French. It is in French language. It is called Viva la Muerte, and this film is brutal. This is not one I would recommend to very many people. So do your own research on this one. Look into it. Maybe watch the trailer and see if it seems like something you'd like to watch. I've been interested in this one for a while though, because Fernando Arrabal started a artistic movement around this period called the Panic Movement, which I've been aware of for a little over a year now, because I did a deep dive on Roland Topor, who is the artist that did Fantastic Planet with director René Laloux. And I really like Roland Topor's art. And the third member that started the Panic Movement was Alejandro Jodorowsky. And I had an amazing experience with his film Santa Sangre in the last couple of years. I've seen it twice already. I love this movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. And I saw a lot of parallels between Viva la Muerte and Santa Sangre. So I can tell those guys were working closely together. This is another surrealist film, translating the surrealism movement to cinema in a very interesting way. There are some dream sequences, nightmare sequences in this film that are shot on video. The rest of the film is shot on 35mm film, but those sequences look completely different. It's very interesting, and there's a lot of interesting choices with cutting and editing and sound. It's a really bizarre, kind of abrasive experience. Very shocking film, intentionally shocking film. A lot of it is autobiographical, so he's kind of telling his own story. He was a kid during the Spanish Civil War, I believe, under Franco's dictatorship, and his father was kind of a rebel, or at least a politically active person, and his mother actually turns him in to the government, and they take him away and throw him in prison, and he never sees his father again. So that happens in this story. We follow a boy, I think he's around 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old, maybe a little bit younger, but he is living with his mother alone after his father gets kidnapped, basically, and there is some Oedipus themes that go throughout the movie. Some of the dream sequences include his mother and his aunt, and there are some weird, like, sensual stuff going on. There's also a lot of stuff with trauma passed on from parents to their kids, which is what reminded me of Santa Sangre a lot in this film. He has a lot of emotions that he's processing with his mom for basically, getting his father killed. And the sequences of intense violence are trying to portray those emotions visually. And there's it's pretty intense. There's some animal violence in here. She goes to a slaughterhouse at one point. It is not like they're not doing any of the violence, but they are showing actual violence that just happens every day. But if you don't want to see that, I would not recommend watching this movie, because it is intentionally shocking. And I don't know. I have a very complicated relationship with this film. There were parts of it that I didn't want to watch. And at the end of it, when I finished it, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to hold on to this. This might have to go up on my eBay page. But the more I thought about it and the more I read about it, the essays in this book are actually really great as well. I recommend flipping through those. It's a pretty hefty book. Some of Roland Topor's art is not for YouTube, so I don't know if I can show you that, but there's actually an opening title sequence, or actually it's a closing title sequence too, with Roland Topor's art, which is really cool, which you can kind of see a sneak peek of it right there on the back of the book. But I think I am actually going to hold on to this. This has a lot of themes in it that resonate with me. I've been watching several films about the effects of war on children recently, with Shoe Shine being the big one last year. There's a couple other ones I want to check out. So this has a place in my collection. I'm going to hold on to it for a little bit longer. But yeah, very, very controversial film. The censors had a field day with that one. But I gotta say, I recommend it. I definitely got stuff out of it, but it is not for everyone. So make sure you do your research. And speaking of controversial films, we've got Todd Solondz, who always makes controversial films. I have not seen it yet, but Happiness is in the Criterion Collection, and I've heard lots of things about Happiness. Not all great things, very divisive film, but I'm looking forward to checking that one out eventually. This is another film that he did called Palindromes, and this is a significant release for Radiance because this is their first 4K title. This is their first 4K release they've ever done. I don't know how many they've done since then. I know Daughters of Darkness was a 4K release, so they're dabbling in 4K. They're kind of doing the transitional phase right now, just like Criterion did a couple years ago. But this is a beautiful release. You've got Blu-ray and 4K in there. You've got a nice hefty booklet again that we'll talk about in a minute because I did read through that. This is the only film I've seen by Todd Solondz, I should say. This is my introduction to him. And it is apparently a kind of spin-off of an earlier film that he had done called Welcome to the Dollhouse, which is also in the Radiance collection, and it is actually Spy Number 3. It was one of the first titles they ever did. I didn't know that at the time. This is a film from 2004, but I think he actually wrote it a few years before that. He just couldn't get it made. It took him forever to get it made. No studio wanted to touch this. I think he actually had to end up funding it himself, but I think he wrote it fresh off of 2001. This is a very post 9/11 movie. It is tackling a lot of controversial topics, very uncomfortable topics around abortion and pedophilia. So very uncomfortable topics for the time, right during that evangelical resurgence at the beginning of the 2000s. And it is hard to watch. This is another one, 2 in a row. I didn't mean to do this to you guys. This is another really hard film to watch. I don't recommend it to very many people. If you like Todd Solondz, so you're already familiar with his work, then you might want to check this one out and check out the 4K restoration. I'll briefly tell you what it's about. It is a heartbreaking story about a young girl, only 13 years old, but she really, really wants to have a child. She wants to have lots of kids. She wants to be a mother so that she can have people that love her, because she comes from a very difficult home. Her parents are pretty awful to her. And because of this, she actually gets pregnant at the age of 13, and her mother immediately forces her to get an abortion. This is all the very beginning of the film. This is all the setup. So this is a very traumatizing experience for Aviva, who is our protagonist, and she goes on this odyssey over the course of the film, this kind of like twisted Alice in Wonderland story where she meets just these awful adults. She gets passed off from awful adult to awful adult, including a convicted pedophile, including Mama Sunshine, who runs this hyper religious home, this kind of cult-like home for disabled children. It's actually kind of a twisted version of Night of the Hunter. If you've seen that film, I just watched it recently and really enjoyed it. She even gets in a boat and like washes down the river like they do in that film, and winds up at this Mama Sunshine home, which is a twisted version of the home for children in that film. I should say the big thing that people remember about this film is the casting, because the main protagonist is played by 8 different actors of all shapes and sizes, all ages, even different genders. There's a male actor at one point that plays Aviva. Some of the actresses are closer to her age, around 13. Some of them are full-grown adults. It switches each chapter to a different actress. So it really keeps you on your toes. It is putting the fiction front and center so you don't get wrapped up in the story and forget that you're watching a movie. It is, I think, an attempt to like soften the blow of some of the horrific things that you see, because you are not fully inside the character's head. You never fully get a grasp of her character because she's changing and the different actors are doing different things with their performance. I think it was meant to soften the blow. It did not work on me though. I still was very uncomfortable with some of the things I was seeing on screen. But I think it serves another purpose too. It also emphasizes the themes of the movie. Todd Solondz is making kind of a statement with this film about how people don't actually fundamentally change. They kind of stay the same. There's a lot of, not a lot of talk, but it's in the seams of the film, and there is some talk about predestination versus free will and how much free will we actually have. And seeing this character stay the same after all of this stuff she's gone through. I wouldn't call it an enjoyable experience, but it is a rewarding experience if you are in the mood for that kind of thing, if you really want to like dive into these concepts and topics. The essay booklet is great. It actually has 2 notes from the director himself. So there's a director statement, and then there's director's notes. And then there's a couple essays from a couple different writers in here. I think 3. Yeah, there's 3 different ones. 2 of them are essays by writers. One of them is an interview with the director. So great stuff in the booklet. A lot for you to dive into. Don't go watch this one and blame me afterwards. Only seek this out if anything I said sounds interesting to you and you can handle a Todd Solondz film. I don't want to be responsible for anybody spending $25 on this film if you're not going to get something out of it. So that one comes with a huge asterisk. That is Palindromes on 4K from Radiance. All right, switching gears from 2 films that I don't even know if I want to keep in my house. This is a film I will absolutely be keeping, and I'll be holding on to this one for a while. This is Malapertuis, directed by Harry Kumel, and I really, really enjoyed this. This is a gothic, surreal, horror, fantasy, a kind of haunted house film. It all takes place in this big, epic, gothic house called Malapertuis. That's what the title means. That's the name of the mansion that they live in. Look at this beautiful box set. You can see Orson Welles there on the back, who is in this film. This was a big co-production between France and Belgium. It's shot in several different languages. It's shot in English with Orson Welles, also French, also Dutch, and a little bit of German. It's a lot going on in this film, but there are English subtitles, so that's all you need to worry about is reading it in English. There's a case in here and a booklet. This one is just a Blu-ray release. It's not a 4K, but it is from a 4K restoration, and it looks incredible. It is a fantastic 4K restoration, and they did a ton of work. This, of all the ones I've talked about, has the most supplements and special features. You can see them all listed there on the back. There's a new audio commentary with the director and one of the, I think, assistant directors or producers from back in the day. They both worked on this restoration. So there is another like 20-minute interview with the director. There's a few other interviews. There's some archival special features as well. There's also a complete alternate cut of the film. So this is great. This is a super solid release. The film itself is another surreal kind of trip through the looking glass. This actually opens with a quote, opens and ends with a quote from Alice in Wonderland. So he has a lot of reverence for that kind of storytelling. We follow our protagonist, Jan, right here, who is a sailor on leave. He's taking a short leave and he doesn't recognize anything. His childhood home has been completely moved. There's all these unexplainable things. It's kind of a ghost town that he comes home to, this kind of eerie, gothic architecture. It's shot in a couple different places. I think it's shot in Ghent and it's shot in Bruges. Beautiful cinematography, again, taking advantage of the real life locations. But then once we get to the mansion, once we get to his childhood home that he hates and he doesn't want to go back to, but he ends up there, it is beautiful, and it's shot, I think they shot like 7 different houses to get this labyrinthian mansion to come to life. Orson Welles, I should get to him. He is the dying patriarch of this very large family. You've got a bunch of relatives just kind of hoping and praying that he dies so that they can get the inheritance. But he is kind of this trickster character, and he plays this cruel joke on them, reads his will right before he passes. They, in order to get the inheritance, are not allowed to leave the home. So they're all stuck in this house together. They have to stay there or they don't get any of the huge fortune that he's leaving behind. And they're all at each other's throats. And there's a lot of psychological interactions going on with these different characters. And there is this big mystery of the film that Jan is trying to figure out. Everyone else seems to remember stuff from their past and their past lives. We start to learn that these characters are not exactly what they seem. They're not exactly human. And he is the only one that doesn't remember. So he is going around the house, going around this big maze of a house, this labyrinth, and trying to get some answers and just interacting with all of the interesting characters. And I really like this kind of film where it is this closed door kind of prison environment. So prison films are like this, asylum films are like this, barrack films, like military barrack films are kind of like this. I was actually talking about this recently with Grace, my wife Grace, if you don't know. We have been watching through a box set of all of Josef von Sternberg and Marlene Dietrich's collaborations. So we watched Morocco, and we just watched Shanghai Express, and it's very similar to this. The entire film takes place on a train, and you're stuck with this hodgepodge of interesting, weird characters and getting all of their different interactions with different pairings. It's really fun, and I had a great time with this as well. This is an intensely European film. I was right at home from the beginning. I love this kind of aesthetic for a film. It reminded me of something that Deaf Crocodile would put out. Deaf Crocodile is another label that I love, and this felt like something they would put out. I don't know, maybe just Radiance beat them to it, but I pulled off a couple here that this reminded me of. The Mysterious Castle of the Carpathians. Also, we have The Savage Hunt of King Stack, and this really reminded me of Freckled Max and the Spooks, which is another haunted house film about a weird, quirky family full of monsters. And yeah, this felt exactly like a Deaf Crocodile release. So if you like their films, you'll probably enjoy this one as well. If you've seen Daughters of Darkness by the same director, you'll also probably enjoy this film. I don't know that I can give much away because it is a very dreamlike movie, very surreal movie. There are a lot of things going on, and it kind of comes together at the end, but also doesn't. There's a lot of things that are left open-ended, questions that you don't get answers to. And I don't think he is interested in giving answers to. I think he is much more interested in just raising questions and raising these interesting topics of conversation. But I can see if I can try to give you some of the visuals here from the booklet. See, there's the Jabberwocky right there on the front. That is how the film opens, with the Alice quote. There's Orson Welles in his old man makeup. He was only in his 50s at the time of making this, so he's all caked up in old man makeup, including his his nose that he insists on putting on. He puts on this putty from his theater days anytime he has to play one of these kinds of characters, and he refused to not wear it, and the director was not super happy about it. Also, the director has some very interesting stories on the commentary and interviews about working with Orson Welles and how hard he was to work with, and doesn't sound like it was a great time, but he's great. He's okay in it. He's good. He's only in it for a short time, and then we home in on the rest of the family. Here is a shot from Carnival, which happens in the film as a very beautiful shot, beautiful scene, I should say. It's funny that I mentioned Marlene Dietrich, because there's actually a Marlene Dietrich reference in this film. It references The Blue Angel, which was her first appearance in a German silent film. So we have a real life singer, pop singer at the time, who kind of does a Marlene Dietrich musical number at the beginning. There is Orson Welles in his bed right before he reads the will. There's another shot of some of the beautiful cinematography in this film. It looks great. I was not only reminded of some of the Deaf Crocodile films that I've been watching recently, but some of the Jean Rollin films also feel very similar to this. It has kind of a similar gothic, sensual sensibility to it. And the main actress, Susan Hampshire, plays 3 different roles in the film, and not 3 main roles too. They're not even like side roles, like 3 main female characters in the film that surround our protagonist, Jan, right there. And she does such a good job. I didn't even realize she was playing multiple roles. There's also some incredible makeup that's done, so she looks completely different for all 3 characters. It's a really interesting, unique film that I highly recommend. It does dabble in horror, but I wouldn't really call it a full-on horror film. It definitely has some scenes that play with horror, but it is much more of a dreamlike fantasy that pulls a lot from mythology. I wish they kind of would have went all the way with the 4K disc for this one. It is a great 4K restoration. It looks fantastic on a Blu-ray, but I kind of wish they would have just put out the definitive version and went all the way and did the 4K disc, because it looks so good. It's such a visually stunning movie. It really carries you through, even some of the confusing parts where you don't really know what's happening or what's going on. The visuals are always enough to pull you through. The booklet's great as well. I didn't talk too much about that. I'm about halfway through it. I actually haven't finished that one yet, but I love when they give you that nice, thick 80-page booklet for these kind of hard box releases. I kind of wish all the releases could get this kind of treatment, but I know not all of the films justify getting the extra packaging on there, but $20 for this beautiful hardbox edition is a crazy deal this month for 50% off. So I highly recommend that one. Maybe check it out if it sounds interesting to you. And the last film I want to talk about in this video is a Greek film. This is my first Greek film, I believe. I don't think I've seen any other Greek films. This is a film by Nikos Kountouros, and it is The Ogre of Athens from 1956. I should say Malapertuis is from 1971, so that's a 70s film. I don't think I mentioned that. This is a 50s film from Greece, and it is borrowing from some of the noir that was happening in America at the time during the 50s. It's also borrowing a little bit, I think, from Italian neorealism. That's a little bit of an inspiration as well. This one was also a surprise for me. This was not exactly what I expected. I really enjoyed the film. The film that it reminds me the most of, actually, is from their box set that Radiance also put out, the Commedia all'Italiana box set. The film is Il Sorpasso, which I know is weird because this is considered a comedy, but Il Sorpasso has a lot in common with this movie. They are both about very shy, meek protagonists. In this case, The Ogre of Athens, it is a bank clerk who has no friends, doesn't talk to anybody, just goes about his life very lonely. And then something happens to him one day the newspaper releases a photo of the big criminal mastermind, the Ogre, and he looks exactly like the protagonist. He looks just like our bank clerk named Thomas, and everyone thinks that he is the criminal mastermind, and the cops start chasing him, and everyone starts chasing him, and he ends up hiding out in this nightclub, this cabaret, with a lot of Greek dancers, and it is run by a mob boss. And they have a different reaction to him. They respect him, and he gets this newfound attention that he's never had before. And they bring him in on this big job that they're trying to pull because they think he will inspire all the guys to follow through with the heist that they're trying to do. So he gets roped up in this really problematic situation. He's way over his head, but it is surprisingly light and fun, and the music is really, really good. There's performances in the cabaret. Even the background music, I really enjoyed. There's two different main themes for the main character. So when he's himself, there's this kind of jaunty carnival kind of music. And then when he is the ogre, pretending to be the ogre, there's this suspenseful, like very impending music that I liked both themes, and they both worked really well. And that's what reminded me of Il Sorpasso, because Il Sorpasso is also about a very shy protagonist who kind of comes out of his shell and experiences this different way of living that he's not used to, and he kind of falls in love with it. But like Il Sorpasso, it also takes a turn and has a very dark second half. This film is pulling from a lot of themes in American noirs at the time, that sense of paranoia and nobody trusting each other. There is also a little bit of commentary on Greece and how Greece is being run during this time period post-war. And like a lot of films that are critical of the government during a time of post-war, like the Italian neorealist films, it kind of got buried. It was kind of disliked by both sides of the political spectrum at the time. So it kind of went into obscurity for a while. I think now it is beloved and held up as like one of the best Greek films. But it took a long time, and it's kind of had this moment of rediscovery. And hopefully with Radiance's fantastic Blu-ray release, it'll be discovered by even more people. You can get some of the visuals right there on the booklet. Look at that. Some beautiful black and white cinematography. I loved what it looked like. I love what it sounded like. I kind of loved everything about it. I loved what it was saying. I think it was a very similar situation where people didn't want to see Greece for what it actually was at the time. Kind of similar to the neorealist stuff. So that's why I think he was inspired by that as well. I can't say for sure. I don't know that that was mentioned in any of the essays that I read, but it definitely feels like that. So if you like that kind of realistic style of storytelling with a good balance, a good mix of humor and lightness, but also some heavy themes to chew on, I highly recommend it. The Ogre of Athens was a great watch, and that is the film that I will be giving away right now. I have an extra copy of this. I called for comments in my last video, and I'm going to randomly select one of those comments, and that winner will take home this copy of The Ogre of Athens. So I've put the URL for my last video into a random YouTube comment picker, and the comment that it gave me is Hunter Dean 4766. Congratulations, Hunter. He says his favorite Radiance title so far is Messiah of Evil, which is another one that I am interested in checking out. I haven't had a chance to see that one yet, so happy to see that get some love in the comments section. Thank you, Hunter, for entering the contest, and thank you everyone else who left a comment. There were some very kind words on that last video. I really appreciate the support. I love making these videos. I don't have as much time as I used to do it, so when I get a video out, it feels very special these days. It's usually only once or twice a week these days, so I really appreciate the support, and I'm gonna keep making as many videos as I can for you guys. Hopefully you enjoy the recommendations. Let me know what you've been picking up in the Radiance sale this month from Barnes & Noble. I am also looking for more recommendations as well, so if you have any good titles you think I'd like, let me know. If you want to see more boutique recommendations from me, you can click this playlist right here, and as always, keep collecting.